There are so many high income earners who are broke, right? There are doctors who make $300,000 a year and are broke because they don't put in these blocks, these building blocks of wealth. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm excited to talk to you today. We are continuing our series on wealth principles. So it's the last wealth principle. So we've talked about the first three. Number one was mindset. So important. If you have not listened to that episode, you must listen to that episode. You've got to get your mind right in order to get to where you want to be, right? Wealth principle number two was discipline, being committed. You got to get committed, right? To being rich. Don't be afraid of it. Let's just get committed and we have our reasons why we want to do this. Wealth principle number three was investing, right? We've got to buy assets, not liabilities, unless you're creative and you can turn those liabilities into assets, right? And wealth principle number four is one that's very close to my heart, and it's called stewardship. Now, we are given money. And when we talk about money, I'm a faith-based person, and I like to think that God is directing us on this earth, right, while we live here. And in this episode, we're going to talk about what we can do with our money, right? Because we're not trying to accumulate massive amounts of money just to swim in it, like Scrooge McDuck did, if you're one of those that watched DuckTales growing up. Scrooge McDuck, he would collect so much money, and he had a vault, and in the vault he would swim in his golden coins. He would put a swimsuit on and literally swim. Well, that's not the goal here, right? The goal is not to amass large amounts of money and just hide it in a vault so me and only me can swim in it. The goal is to accumulate and really become a good steward of money. So if we think about being a steward is someone who takes care of what they have, right? And when you are raising children, so if you have kids and you want to teach them about money, you don't give them, $100 bills right away. You start out with coins, right? You give them a quarter. Right? You emptied the dishwasher. Great job. Here's your quarter, right? Or maybe $1, inflation, right? My kids got a quarter, but of course they're older now. And so kids these days probably get $1. Maybe they get $5. I don't know. That's up to you. But you start out with small amounts, right? And I'm going to teach you exactly what our family does to educate on money. But in the beginning, it's very small because that's all they can handle, really. They can handle $1 here and there, right? My kids, it was the best thing ever. They would earn their $1 and then we'd go to the dollar store and they could pick anything they wanted because the dollar store at the time was only $1. And it's the same with us, right? If we're starting out on our financial journey as adults and we start to earn money, we're going to start out small in the beginning. And everybody starts small. We started from nothing. My husband and I started from nothing, right? We got married young. We were both in college trying to figure things out. We were both intent on graduating without student loans, which we did, and we cash flowed our education. But it was very challenging because you could only work part-time jobs, and it's not like you had a salary, a nice career salary because you're still in school. Well, as our journey progressed, it's kind of like line upon line, right? Line upon line, precept on precept, where God gives you what you can handle at the time. And so the key here is to don't stress and don't worry about how much money you have right now, right? The important thing is you need to worry about being a steward of your money, right? Worry is not the right word. You need to be conscious about being a steward of your money. You need to manage your money well. Because until you can handle what you've got, you won't get any more. Now, have you ever had this experience where you're at the end of the month and you look back at what you're spending, and you're like, man, I make good money, but I'm always at nothing at the end of the month. Like, where did all my money go? What happened to it? And it can just fly out the door. I mean, if you don't control it, it's going to control you, right? And it's going to fly out the door. It's not going to give you what you need. It's not going to do well for you. It's just going to be gone. And suddenly you're sitting there scratching your head thinking, where did it go? So let me tell you exactly what we decided to do. And I'm going to give you some numbers here. So with your income, so if you think about your income, you need, as the income comes in, you need to divide it into categories right away. Because if you don't, it's just going to fly out the window and it's just going to all be gone and you'll be like, where's my money? So the first thing that we do is we give. And for us, that's 10%. So we give 10% of our income. Why do we do that? Well, because we believe that God has given us the money and we need to take care of his children. And we can do that by giving. 10% is not much, right? I mean, it's not much when you're not making much. If you make $100, it's $10. So you can live on 90. Now, when you're making 100,000, it's 10,000. And that kind of feels like a, stretch to write that check for 10,000. But if you're just giving at regular increments and regular intervals, I promise you won't miss it, and it comes back to you tenfold. Okay, so 10% we give. The next 10% we put towards long-term investing, right? Now remember, for us, at points in time, we did invest in, we did 401ks, we did IRAs, but right now it's all about real estate. So we set aside 10% to invest in real estate, to get another rental property, to invest in another apartment, group investment, things like that. The next 10% is towards education. You may think that is interesting, right? Because why at 42 am I still paying for education? Right? I thought I already graduated college. I have my bachelor's degree. I got my MBA. I've got all the degrees. Do I really need to go back to school? Do I really need to be learning? Oh, 100%. Yes, you really need to be learning. I love education. I love learning. I'm a lifelong learner, and I don't mind spending money on educating and really learning about what you can do to increase your business. For me right now, it's learning all about marketing, right? How do I do better in marketing? One of the reasons I'm starting a podcast is so I can do better at marketing. And it's a learning curve, and I have to spend money in order to educate myself how to do this. So 10% for education. 50%, half of your money, goes towards necessities, right? I'm talking about your rent or your mortgage, your food, your clothing, your children, etc., right? 50% of that income goes to pay for all those things, right? That's all money that's going to fly out the door. It's not going to benefit you much, but it's stuff that you have to do. You gotta put gas in the car, And finally, the last 10% goes towards what I call financial freedom, right? So that last 10% is going towards building something, right? Like passive income, building passive income. So the job of that money is to build the golden goose that lays the golden eggs, right? It's called passive income. And remember, it's never spent, right? It's money that's just going to continually churn and make more money for you. And sorry, this one's the last 10%. I got my addition wrong, is for play. And you can't live your life on rice and beans and that's it, right? I mean, you can do it for a bit, but you need to have time to play. You need to build memories with your family. And that's something super important for our family is building memories and going on vacations or, just going on little trips here and there and having time together, because if the kids, if you ask your kids, what do you remember about last year? It's going to be the vacation that you took. It's not going to be the everyday, like what you had for breakfast. So you got to have time to play. I'm a big advocate of play. So if you think about it, it's not really about what comes in, right? It's not really about how much comes in. It's about what you do with it, because there are so many high income earners who are broke, right? There are doctors who make $300,000 a year and are broke because they don't put in these building blocks of wealth creation. So you have to be intentional about it, and you have to do that. And you can't pay bills first, right? You got to pay yourself first. Really important principle that I learned from a book that's called The Richest Man of Babylon. You have to pay yourself first. Otherwise, you're never going to get ahead. You're never going to get ahead. There will always be something else that comes up. And so that's a really important wealth building principle. Now, I recently took my 2 17-year-old daughters on a trip to Paraguay. And in Paraguay, it was a humanitarian trip where we built a school for children in a poverty situation. In fact, the community there where we built the school, it was literally a landfill. I saw the garbage trucks come and dump the garbage. I saw the parents go and sift through the garbage to find materials to build their houses. They sifted through it to find recyclable materials that they could then go and turn in for a little bit of money to be able to feed their families. And I saw the children sifting through it to find toys and prizes. And, they would come every day. They would come with a different toy that they had found among the garbage. And they were happy, right? They were happy kids. They were not sad. They were ecstatic about what they had found. But in this community, education was super important, and if the children did not get an education, there's no way they could move out of the landfill, that they could, achieve something bigger for themselves in their lives and have a longer life expectancy, have better health, all of these things. So it was a really important trip for us. It was an intense trip, but it was a very important trip to go on and to be able to serve in that way. And there's, one thing I want to say about that is that the only way we were able to do that is by giving, because the money that we paid to go on this trip, was all, they combined all the money from all the participants of the trip, and that's what was used to pay for the materials, to pay for the local workers, as they had some local workers on site, and to pay for, of course, our hotel travel and food. And then we basically donated the labor, and a school was built from scratch, and it was not built with power tools. Let's just say that. But while on that trip, one of the trip leaders, we had this speed friending time. We were on a bus for 8 hours, and so she came up with this idea to do speed friending, where you'd sit by someone and you'd answer a question. The question was asked, and then everybody would answer that question, and then you'd switch and talk to someone else next time. The very first question she asked was, "What will be your legacy?" And I thought, whoa, okay, we're going deep here right away, because the trip is actually 20 teenagers. It's 20 teenagers, 2 adults who are like the mom and the dad. That was me and another dad. And then they have the trip leaders who are, younger adults. So these teenage kids had to think about, what will be your legacy? But I want you to think about that right now. So if you were sitting next to someone on a bus for 8 hours and you had to tell them right then, what will be your legacy? What would you say? What would you talk about? What comes to mind? And then think about, what would you need to do or have to achieve that legacy, right? And so this is why we talk about building wealth. It's not about accumulating gold coins in a vault to swim in. It's about continuing your legacy, enabling yourself to live your legacy, impacting the world around you in bigger ways. Because it's not going to help if you stay small. You've got to play in bigger spaces and step up, right? And so think about your legacy. As you pursue this legacy and pursue the impact that you're going to make, God is going to give you, or the universe, whatever you believe in, is going to enable you and give you what is needed to achieve this. If you have your mind right, if you continue learning every day, and if you make sure that you are a good steward of your money. So I hope that helps you all. I'm excited to dive deep into strategies further on, and the podcast from now on will be diving deep into different strategies, and also having some interviews, bringing some experts on who have done what you are looking to do, right? And so you can learn from them. So please share this podcast episode with others. It's so important to share the wealth, right? We've got to make sure that others are learning from as much as we can. So thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you next time.